back to the Big Red Wired Nebraska football show. It is a new season for Nebraska, and we are reigniting the Big Red Wired Nebraska football show. Of course, you guys remember Mr. Jim, the season ticket holder for Nebraska, and of course myself, Bobby Schneider. I've been covering the Huskers for the past couple of years. But Jim, we're finally here. It's football season. It's been a long off season.
It has been a long off season. The good news is, we had a lot of good stuff going on with some of the other sports, so it's enough to keep you interested.
Arguably, probably one of the better springs Nebraska's ever had for sports. Wrestling took third place. Baseball hosted a regional for the first time since '08. Softball, Women's College World Series, but it's football season now. Of course, how can I forget March Madness? Sweet 16 and everything for Nebraska basketball. That was really fun to watch. But, man, how are you feeling about Nebraska football as a whole? I know the offseason was quiet, partly because it was such a rough ending for Nebraska.
Oh, I guess I've got a bit of, battered wife syndrome or something, because I used to always look forward to a lot of stuff, and anymore it's try not to get too excited after last year's letdown at the end.
Yeah, you're cautious with your expectations. I will say, though, this is kind of a new look Nebraska. Of course, you got a new defensive coordinator, Rob Arich, at the 4-2-5 defense. But on the offensive side of the ball, which we're going to start with, you got 3 new offensive line transfers, a dual-threat quarterback, Mountain West Player of the Year on the offensive side of the ball, and Anthony Calandria. That's got to excite you a little bit.
Yeah, the loss of Dylan and or transfer of him and the injury and everything, that I don't know. I think the parting of ways between Dylan and Nebraska is maybe one of the better things. There's having a more mobile quarterback might fit in better with us.
Now, when you think about that too, for what Dana Holgerson's been able to do with his offense, do you kind of feel like Matt Rule said this is going to be able to let Dana be Dana?
Right.
Do you kind of feel that as like an outsider, somebody that doesn't really cover the program, but you follow the program closely, you watch all the games, you go to the games?
I think, Dana, he won't have to be, our offense won't be so doggone one-dimensional. Have to be one-dimensional. Not taken away from Emmett Johnson, because he carried a huge load last year. So,
yeah. But on the offensive line aspect, you get Jeep Wade now. You get these 3 transfers, and Gunnar Gatula's kind of been the story of fall camp.
Yeah, he's fighting for a spot, any spot, from what I understand.
Mostly the right tackle position, him and that Tree Babalad. The other 4 are set in stone, essentially. You got Elijah Pritchett returning at left tackle, Paul Mbanga coming over from LSU at left guard, Justin Evans is forced in that center position, and then Brendan Black coming over from Iowa State. He has 30 starts at right guard and 3 years in Ames. So I really feel good about this offensive line. Jeep Wade's confident about this offensive line. It sounds like they got 6 guys he really is confident in that can go out there and play. Plus, he wants to have 8 guys, because remember last year, Teddy Prohaska.
Yep.
He started the season. You had Gunnar Gatula go down. Right. You also had Rocco Spindler. So you're going to need those guys. He singles out a guy like Gibson Pyle, who missed all of last year. I believe he's a redshirt freshman now on that roster. He's from Texas. Was a pretty good high school recruit. Was an All-American in high school. So he's a guy that Jeep Wade singled out. That's kind of rare anymore that you get a coach say, like, hey, this guy, he's really moving up the depth chart in a sense.
I'm kind of gonna be kind of interested to watch and see how Pritchard does. So far he's shown some flashes, but he hasn't been very consistent. I don't think you can say he hasn't been very consistent.
I will say, though, although Nebraska struggled in the season significantly, Elijah Pritchett was kind of lone bright spots. You weren't seeing him give up really any sacks or anything. And in the Las Vegas Bowl, I thought he was probably the best player, graded out the best on PFF. So, and it's going to help a lot. You got a mobile quarterback. I mean, think of how many they talk about all off season about how they want off schedule playmaking to kind of define this offense. Well, that's kind of what Nebraska was before Mike Riley took over, and even with Scott Frost as coach, they had a lot of off schedule plays with Adrian Martinez. They still had a good offense there.
Yeah.
But you think of like the prior years of like Tim Beck as the offensive coordinator with Taylor Martinez, or when Tommy Armstrong was quarterback at Nebraska. there was a lot of times where he had to roll out of the pocket, and it was just kind of a broken play, backyard football, and you could find a receiver. And you got a pretty good receiving corps, arguably the strength of the team.
Right. Well, you talk about a mobile quarterback, and boy, you had no mobility last year. I mean, when you're not going to win many football games giving up damn near double-digit sacks.
Well, and if you think about it on the flip side, what that's going to do for this running back room, okay? So, of course, Tyke Hayes came in July. He's already off the team.
Yeah.
So that experiment.
That was a kid from Penn State.
Yeah, it was just he was dismissed from the program, so we'll just leave it at that. But Mekhi Nelson is good to go. You were rolling with the running backs you were projected to roll with. He's good to go.
Did he kind of get his stuff straightened up a little bit?
Yeah, I mean it's all taken care of.
Okay.
Mekhi Nelson is facing no punishment whatsoever. So,
okay.
So you got him, Isaiah Mosey. He's a guy that's really developed. I mean, shoot, they're saying he's weighing around 215 pounds. He's 6 foot. I know he's a converted receiver, but he's had a year. He's apparently been starting to run in between the tackles. His running back coach is saying. You got him, and then you got the true freshman Jamal Rule as your top 3.
You know, and they're pretty up on him, aren't they?
Yes, Jamal Rule. That's going to be what's going to be interesting to see is like within these first 3 games, who could emerge? Because you got Ohio, you got Bowling Green, you got North Dakota. Now, don't get me wrong, you're going to have to show up every Saturday, but this is where you can get a lot of reps for each of these guys. Mm-hmm. You'd love to see that each of them have 10 carries in the first game. And maybe say, okay, this guy had 50 yards, this guy had 75, this guy had 30. And then you kind of build off of that, and then maybe the next week another emerges, and you're going to need all 3. I mean, for what Emmett Johnson did is such a rare thing to see in nowadays of college football.
Right. Well, and that's simply, I'll stay on subject, but that's simply though because of the way they call the game with the wide receivers and pass interference and that kind of stuff.
I'm excited for the wide receivers because you got Quinn Clark emerging now. I mean, he's 6'5", son of Ken Clark, who played back in the 80s for Nebraska. He had a couple catches last year, but it sounds like he's kind of the wide receiver 4. And then you return Janiron Bonner, who Dana Holgerson's head over heels about. They have him play. He can play everything. He can play fullback. He played that his first year under Matt Rule.
And he's not a small guy either.
No,
he's 6'2".
They're 6'4".
6'4"?
No, he's 6'2". I'm sorry.
He's 6'2", I thought.
He's 6'2". And but yeah, even in the open practice portion they let us watch on Tuesday, they had him line up as a wing tight end. So you can do so much different things. RPOs. Think about how pivotal that'll be in the red zone, where you can have Calandria Reed in that D end.
That's interesting. So with a little bit more mobility at quarterback and not quite so doggone one-dimensional, what are you going to do with Mr. Universe number 2, Ja'Cory Barney? Is that going to open him up?
You'd think it would, what the off-schedule plays, and especially when you roll a guy out like outside the pocket, you can find those guys.
Because he'll come back for you. He'll come back for you.
Yes. We've seen it a lot over the past couple of years, and some people have been like, well, I'd like to see him produce a little more. Well, let's see what happens with the mobile quarterback.
Right.
Maybe there's a breakthrough season from one of them. And Isaiah Hunter had a great season last year. And they're also bringing back UCLA's leading receiver, Quasi Gilmer. That's your top 3. You have Quinn Clark at 4. Bonner can play as your 5. Guys like Keelan Smith, Cortez Mills are in that mix. You got to feel good about that receiving corps, but I still think Nebraska is going to be able to line up and run the football too. I'm optimistic about the offense. The most exciting thing I'm looking forward to see is that offensive line, though. But the only thing is you probably won't see the full glimpse of it until Nebraska goes to Michigan State. Yeah, at Michigan State. But on the offensive side of the ball for you, who is like your guy I'm really looking forward to see? And you could say Calandria.
It is.
It's the obvious answer there.
Yeah, it is. That's the no-brainer. You want to see what he can do.
I think my under-the-radar guy that's going to have a breakout season would probably be Jamal Rule, the true freshman running back. I wouldn't be surprised to see him rush for 700 yards this season.
As a freshman?
As a freshman.
Well, that'd be big.
I mean, and you could still, imagine if you got like 400 yards from those top 3 running backs. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, it would be.
And what's something that's to watch is Quentin Ives has been that guy that they say like he's the best pass blocker on the team in the running back room.
We haven't mentioned the tight end.
The tight ends Dana Holgerson's called out, but let's stay on that 1 second.
Okay.
With that running back room is one of those 3 of those top 3 could maybe emerge as like the best pass blocker. That's something to watch.
Yeah, it is, and that would help. Because that's awful hard to extend plays if you don't have a running back that can, and to be able to catch too.
Yeah, hands out of the backfield. I mean, that's why I really like Mosey in that role. He's a former receiver.
Got it. Good
I think
point.
he's a good third down back that you can use. I mean, I don't see Mosey ever being that guy you're going to give the ball 20 times in between the tackles. Even
How
though
fast is he?
he's got speed. I wouldn't know his exact like mile per hour split, but he's fast. Mekhi Nelson's the quickest in that room.
Okay.
Mekhi Nelson's the quickest. He's got the best burst. You saw that in the Las Vegas Bowl. But yeah, you mentioned the tight ends. I mentioned Bonner, how important he is. Dana Holgorsen kind of called out the tight ends this summer. He said, I was not impressed with them. Nobody was pushing Luke Lindenmeyer. The first guy that comes to mind that you're really hoping has a breakthrough season's Carter Nelson. He's suffered injuries the past couple of years. It's kind of delayed his career, but that's the guy you need to step up. Luke Sorensen, the true freshman, is another guy that's probably going to play a significant role in this offense. And then you got other guys like Eric Ingerson and Kate Achternack in that tight end room that are vying to potentially play this fall.
So going back to the quarterback position a little bit. So who do you see still going as a backup? Anything developing there?
I think it's one of those things like you don't really need to say like, oh, Latif's the backup, Kalen's the backup right now.
Okay.
Why not just get them some reps in the first couple games if you get up big?
Get as many people in, get some game experience.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is your time to do it. There's no sense if you're up 28 points in the third quarter to keep having Kalangio roll outside the pocket and dot up somebody in the end zone or risk him getting injured or something. So that'd be a great moment to say, okay, we're going to go with Kalen this one, and then the next one is like, we're going to go with Latif. Dana's raved about Latif, just about how he's actually like got a lot of the locker room's respect and stuff.
I thought he came in and filled in the position last year unexpectedly well.
There was the UCLA game was great, but man, I will say that hamstring injury he suffered at Iowa really took him out of the game.
Right.
Penn State though really exploited him, and so did Utah.
Yeah.
But and then Kalen, I mean, Dana said he's got the best completion percentage probably of anybody in the camp in that room. But overall, I'm excited for this offense. It's going to be really interesting to see what Dana schemes up week in and week out because he said he wants to keep it simple, but he can do a lot of different things now with this different mixture of athletes he has in this roster.
Right.
But I am excited to see that the O-line is going to be getting downfield. I'm excited for that counter scheme that Jeep Wood's going to be implementing, plus the duo, the inside zone concepts that Nebraska's been running previously.
Last year, the people that didn't go to the games or be in the stadium didn't get to see. There was a lot of missed receivers downfield. Dylan just flat missed them, and they were open. You wouldn't see that on TV, but you would in the stadium. And I think the Minnesota game was particularly bad on the road. So let's hope. I'm going to be watching for that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, get the ball downfield, push the ball downfield.
Right.
Rather than, and don't get me wrong, lateral football is great. I think it's great to get those guys involved. Like a swing here and there is actually really effective. I think some people just got upset about like the Scott Frost era.
It's all we did.
Or when Dylan's first year with Satterfield, like up at Ohio State, run all them screen passes. Like, oh, I don't want to run them. Well, they're actually really effective if you set them up properly. But let's flip to the defensive side of the ball. The defensive side of the ball now, a 4-2-5 scheme. Matt Rules went out and said, like, we played 4 down like half the time last year. But you got a new defensive coordinator. You brought in some guys. You got some guys that are also developed. I mean, like guys like Cam Lenhart, this is his 4th year in the program. He came in and started as a true freshman under Matt Rule. And he said, he's like, man, I feel finally like I'm at a position where I'm meant to be at in that true defensive end role. And then like Riley Van Poppel, this is a big year for him.
He needs to produce.
He needs to produce, and he was aware of that. Like when he spoke to reporters right before the first day of fall camp, he said he's like, I was not pleased with how I was last year. He's like, I'm not looking for production, but I need to be able to put my team in a better situation. He's got the size. He's got everything. Corey Brown says he wants to rotate 6 on that interior defensive line.
How about the kid from North Dakota?
Petschok, yeah. Petschok, but he's on the edge. He's a D-end, a true D-end.
I was kind of impressed with him with no more experience than he had. He had some bright spots.
Yeah, and then you got Winery too. This is a That's where you need your pass rush. You only had 19 sacks last year. That was, I believe, it was around the 100th in the nation in pass rush for sack production. And I'd get that, like, sometimes, like, well, how many QB hurries are you getting? Well, if you can get the quarterback down, that's huge.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And that's kind of where it's like people were like, well, they couldn't. People sometimes said it's like, well, Nebraska had this great secondary last year. It's like you allowed 4.82 yards per carry.
There's no pressure on the secondary.
Yeah, and if they were going to throw it, it was like a quick dump. So, I mean, maybe that is a one way to look at the pass rush, too. But, yeah, you got Anthony Jones, too, another UCLA transfer that everybody's been raving about. You got to feel good about the edges. The defensive tackle position, you got Whittington. He said he's up to, like, 275. He came in at 250 over the summer. I mean, Matt Rule said they have, like, 677 or 8 pounds across the team this year, which, I mean, that's actually kind of normal in a sense if you think about, like, guys developing, underclassmen, adding muscle and everything. But on that interior defensive line, it's like, okay, you feel a little bit better about that in that aspect. Even in a 4.25, you do not want a 250-pound D tackle, especially in the Big Ten.
Okay, I agree with that.
And then you look at the linebacker position. You bring in Owen Chambliss, who I think is going to be the best defender on the team. First team All Mountain West, 110 tackles. Coaches rave about him all the time. He's going to be the guy that's kind of the quarterback in that unit, wearing the microphone in his helmet and everything. Right. And then you return Shavers and bring over Dexter Foster. That appears to be your top three. The question is, who is the next guys that would maybe go in? You think of, like, Dawson Merritt, and then some other young guys from, like, the Omaha area, like Pierce Mooberry, maybe Christian Jones. You brought in a transfer, Will Hawthorne. I like the linebacker core. When we got those 2 20-minute portions, I spent a lot of time over with the linebackers, and they liked it. I think that's going to surprise some people with the depth in that room. You even got, like, a walk-on from UTAN, Derek Wacker. I mean, that's a guy that seems like the players always mention.
Tell me, what else do you know about him? I haven't heard a lot.
I mean, he was the leading tackler in the spring game, which that's a spring game. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, like Chambliss said earlier on this camp, he's like, man, Derek Wacker might have taken the biggest leap of any linebacker this summer. So I really like the linebacker core. And they're also going to use some 4-3 at times, too. That 4-2-5, what's nice about that is your nickel can sometimes line up a linebacker, or you can just take your nickel out and run basic 4-3. It's not going to change up much of that quarters-based defense in reality. I mean, Aurich, that's what he started with, was a 4-3. And he just kind of shifted it to a 4-2-5.
Defensive backs. Guthrie's coming back, right?
Guthrie's coming back. He's battling for this one of the safety positions. Jameer Khan's really emerging. They have him working more at free safety. Dwayne McDougal followed Aurich from San Diego State. He intercepted 4 passes. So those guys are really battling. But Donovan Jones, they switched him to nickel. And Donovan Jones, you've watched Donovan Jones play. He was probably one of the better defenders on the team last year.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to feel optimistic about Donovan Jones. Andrew Marshall returns. He's starting at corner.
What's the height of these guys?
Marshall, Jones, around that 6-foot range. So there isn't, like, crazy length, but you should actually see what they're recruiting in 2028s, because they're actually recruiting a lot of 6'3". In 2027s, they got, like, them 6'2", 6'3" guys.
Yeah, because it's awful hard. Who was our kid for last year, year before?
Well, you're talking about Hartzog.
Yeah, he tried. He had a lot of heart. But for him to go up against some of these receivers that were 6'4", 6'5", you got to climb a ladder every time.
The position to watch is actually the opposite corner. It seems like there's 3 guys vying for that position. It seems like Jeremiah Charles has the edge. And then you got Victor Evans, a transfer from FIU, who's only got 1 year of eligibility. Well, I guess with 5-for-5, he would have 2 now. But he's got that. And then you also have true freshman Danny Odom. He was a 5-star on 24/7 Sports.
Now, as far as our defense, what would you say was our weakest link last year?
Well, I mean, stopping the run.
Yeah, and no pass rush.
And I will say,
so that's defensive line, right?
Well, you can argue, like, with your linebacker, too. Like, that's, I think, part of the reason why RH brought in, like, a Dexter Foster. Dexter Foster finished 7th on Oregon State, and he only played 7 games in tackles. Like, that dude, he's big. These guys are, like, instead of being, like, that 220, 225 range, they're, like, that 240 now.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are like, well, I don't want them to lose their speed. I'm like, well, this is a Big Ten. This is the Big Ten. I mean, you saw what Michigan did last year. And part of it, I think sometimes when we look at the defense, like, man, we always pinned it on the defensive line. I remember the Michigan game last year, how poor the pursuit angles were and how many missed tackles Nebraska had across the season. The tackling, that is something that like I don't think we'll know about until Big Ten play. But are these guys wrapping up? How many missed tackles does Nebraska have per game, especially in like the secondary? How is that secondary tackling in open field?
Right. Because you put yourself on an island a lot out there.
Yeah, we'll touch on the special teams really quick. On the defense, though, is there somebody that like before we touch on the special teams, and then we'll touch on some other stuff before we close this out. On the defense, it's just like, man, I'm really excited to see what this guy does this year.
What was his name? He's got a funny name.
You did mention Pet Shock from North Dakota.
Yeah, him and the other kid, Kwane. What's his name? He's defensive lineman. He tried to return a fumble last year.
Winery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what he can do because I think he's got all the athletic ability to do it, and this has got to be the year.
You know, hands down has to be the year. When you look at special teams now, really quickly, Brett Maher takes that unit over for Mike Eckler. There hasn't been too much talk. It just seems like they're doing the same stuff, and I do think that although Maher was a kicker, I think he fits this role for Nebraska.
Heckler's going to be hard to replace. We talked about that last year.
So you're not too optimistic about special teams.
Eckler brought something to brought some enthusiasm to the sideline and the practice and the field that there was no excuses with him, and that was the most improved part of Nebraska last year. So I think that the camera's going to be on the special teams coach, the new one.
Well, the thing is I'd say it's like when you talk about what Dana's got going for him on the offensive side of the ball and new defense, it's like it's kind of getting buried a little bit in the headlines, which is natural. You're going to talk about the scrimmage in a sense, but
we know what happens when your special teams suck.
But you also think about like you got Ja'Cory Barney returning as a punt returner. He had the best yards per return since I think J.D. Spielman in 2018. I think
we weren't the University of Fair Catch.
Well, he caught a lot of them and got roughed up. You got a good kicker returning in Cal Kunyanin.
Yes, you do.
Archie Wilson. The punt coverage was actually pretty good last year. You didn't see like the net putting go crazy, but the coverage wasn't allowing return yardage. So if you can kind of just keep that moving and have even just solid special teams, that's all you need to be is fundamentally sound. I think that'll just bode well for Nebraska. I'm confident in Maher and that Nebraska will have a respectable special teams.
So last year, I think our special teams, I would give them pretty doggone close to an A, and maybe that's because they were so far below an F the year before. So special teams is going to be a big deal. I'm going to be watching that very carefully in especially the first 3 games. They better perform.
Yeah, because that's one of those ones where it's like you're up 21 points. You can get away with not blocking your guy or releasing or something.
Right.
And you still ain't going to affect the outcome, but I know what you mean. Okay. Now let's talk about some more stuff more broad. This threatened sellout streak. They have been trying to sell tickets. The advertising's been wild this summer. It seems like they're all having all these ticket packages and stuff. I even saw, we're going to touch on like the blackout too, but the blackout deal they just came out with. It's like you buy a ticket to the Washington game and you can get a ticket to Ohio or Bowling Green of your choosing for $20.
Well, I don't think we'd be talking about this, the sellout streak being in jeopardy, if we had a little bit better product on the field the last couple 3 years.
Yeah,
and increasing ticket prices and all this and that.
Well, you're a season ticket holder. You kind of understand what it's like to go through the selection process. You had the receipt for volleyball.
I had a receipt for volleyball, and then I had to crank up and up my donation for volleyball and everything else, and then still didn't get that great of seats. The less than I expected, and then we got the same seats we had several years there in East Stadium in the balcony, which are great seats, but my buddies are gone. The corporate seats are everywhere around me.
Well, how in today's world of having to pay players, how do you combat that then? And
I don't know. It's
a double-edged sword.
It is. I understand it.
But you also, like you said, you mentioned that you saw the problems with like the baseball regional, the softball regionals. like
Season ticket holders were kicked out.
That's where it's like, well, we got to find a way to do that a little better, or maybe have a little bit more coherency.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about the volleyball thing, and I heard because there hasn't been a group of fans get together to where you can kind of do a bitch session. How that went over, and how many people are disgruntled over that.
Yeah. Well, so you're a veteran. You went to the University of Nebraska in the late '70s. What do you think of the black alternates? Let's get your perspective.
The uniforms. I don't know. I'm kind of a bit of a traditionalist, so it doesn't do anything for me per se.
Well, let me ask you this: what do you think of the rebranded uniforms? The basic uniforms having the stripes up there.
I think that's kind of cool.
It actually, some people
That's almost something kind of retro.
That's what I kind of thought. You look at like old pictures that when Devaney was coach, into the '70s and stuff, and even the number font, it looks retro in my book. I like the cursive script though for the blackouts. It's a little different. Just do that once a year. You never mess up the helmet for the other games. The recruits love it. That's you got in today's world, and like you got to remember, you were at the blackout last year. That was a cool atmosphere.
Yeah, it was fun.
For one game a year. I think that's great for Nebraska to do. And last, before we close this out, so you got the first 5 you should be able to win on paper.
On paper, we should. But I was doing a barbecue competition when we played Bethune-Cookman.
Yeah, Nebraska beat Bethune. You're probably thinking like Troy.
Who was the other directional Iowa school?
Northern Illinois. Yeah. There's been some rough patches like in the past decade. For sure.
I don't think we've got the talent to overlook anybody right now because they're coming in hot.
Matt Rule said this is the most talented team he's had. It's year 4. It's time to win.
Well, let's see what happens. Boy, that really turns up the juice on poor Matt.
Well, it turns up the juice, but then like you get through those 5, then you host the defending national champions, Indiana, then you go to Eugene, then you have a bye week, and then Washington comes into here, and then you travel out to Illinois the following Friday.
Okay, looking forward to this season. I think one of the key things I'm going to look for in Matt's 4th year to measure success is, do we get better in November?
He's 2-10 in November. That's kind of where I'm at too.
I'm going on that strong. Do we get better in November? Because we have not. Do we get better in the second half?
Yeah, are you?
I haven't seen that.
Well, you've seen it against Michigan State.
Second half of any game.
Well, you've seen it against like a Michigan State last year, maybe.
Yeah.
Or a Northwestern, but it's not like you're seeing it.
But this is where coaching comes through.
Yeah. No.
I'm putting the juice to that coaching staff. I want to see you get better in November. I want to see us play better in the second half. That's what I'm looking for this year.
Well, guys, be sure to share your comments in the comment section below. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for the Big Red Wired Nebraska football show. For Bobby Schneider and Jim Parman, signing off.
See ya.